There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call
the Kaalia Zone.
Welcome back to Deep Discussions, Kaalia of the Vast, Season 2, where Clay and myself, that's the MTG3 Drinks, Kaalia of the Vast's personal liaison, will be discussing cards released since we made the last podcast back in 2020.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This should be episode 3 of Deep Discussions Kaalia the Vast. My name is Clay. I don't have anything interesting to say about myself, not in the same way that our illustrious friend across the way does, Mr. The 3 Drinks. Everybody.
Not 4, not 2, but 3.
It never gets old, never gets old. What's going on, my friend? Not much has gone on since the last time we spoke, because that was theoretically a few minutes ago.
I can honestly say not much has changed from last video to this video.
Awesome. So yeah, through the miracle of editing, we're talking to you 3 weeks later. Oh, 3 drinks 3 weeks later. Oh my God. No, that doesn't work. Not 4. No, we'll be back for 4. I digress. So this time, okay, so in the first episode, sorry again for the audio quality. We took the opportunity to come back to revisit all of these things just so you'd be able to hear us more clearly and more succinctly. Hopefully that works, fingers crossed. And then we did lands in the first episode. We did creatures in the last episode. And it looks like we might actually get to both enchantments and artifacts in this episode. So with that, I think we're going to start off with enchantments. And I've already got one loaded up on deck. Are you ready, my good man? We're going to hit them right out of the gate.
Let's rock.
Sweet. So right out of the gate, we have Firha. I think I'm saying that's correctly. I'm not Scandinavian, so I don't know. Firha's Retribution. It's a saga.
That is correct.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, awesome. I feel vindicated then. So yeah, it's a enchantment, a saga. For Kaldheim, there was a bunch of sagas. Now, this is a great time to point out. So we're going to take the opportunity. We're not going to cover all of the sagas because there's a lot of them, especially with there's a lot of them. So we're just going to cover maybe not even the heavy hitters. We're just going to talk about a couple of standout enchantments, and then because the same thing would be for the classes and other related stuff. There's just too many, and even not all of them are all that good. So we're just going to give the opportunity for you guys to go, you know what, guys, you should have really covered this one. 3 drinks. You really screwed the pooch this time. This isn't Dragonstorm. You should have covered this. And we're going to go, you know what? You're right. You are correct.
So one thing before we move on to that. A minute ago, you said that you felt vindicated. So my only question is, did you really feel like you just destroyed target permanent?
Flexing that old school knowledge. Yep.
Recognize.
Nice. So, Firha's Retribution, a saga. Everybody knows how, hopefully, fingers crossed. So, the way sagas work is from turn to turn, or if you're able to increase counters by some proliferate plan or what have you, you can artificially do it that way. But from turn to turn, you're going to go from steps 1 through 3, or I think there's one with even 4. You're going to go through and you're going to do the thing, and you're going to have that ability or create that token or whatever it is that the saga says to do. You're going to have that for those turns until you reach, in this instance, turn 4, and then you sacrifice it after you've reached the third ability. So if you're able to, once again, if you're able to take counters off or add counters on, you're going to be able to artificially stimulate like these different things. We're not going to really branch into anything like that. We're just going to talk about them for what they represent, in the potential of either Kaalia the Vast or even like Zenith Seeker. We've been touching on some light things, even though there's an episode coming up specifically on her. If it is a real specific value for her, you might even get some additional knowledge dropped on you that way. So reading this damn thing. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, so one thing, when you mentioned about adding counters to or removing counters from a saga, just want to throw a quick shout out to our boy Hex Parasite. That is a Phyrexian Black and X to remove X counters. So if you had a saga that you really liked one specific ability, you would just keep removing the counter to right before that ability, so every turn you would keep hitting that same ability that you want. And similarly, like if you had like some kind of repeat source of proliferate, you can get more counters on something, so that way you can get that ability and then use Hex Parasite to remove them so you can proliferate back to that ability.
Man, that is some high octane value for a saga. Hex Parasite, proliferate, value. Okay.
You could do it all at once if you put Hex Parasite equipped with Sword of Truth and Justice.
Oh, here we go.
Gives you the proliferate. And it's a pro blue weapon. How about that?
Oh, this is going to be a nightmare in post-production. So right now, as we're recording this, we just have the one card up on the screen. But as we mention other cards, obviously I've been putting in, if you've been watching this series, I've been putting them up as we talk about them. So you have a frame of reference. So it's going to be like this epileptic, flashy dream of proliferate value.
We did it.
Okay. Fear is retribution. The first, what would you call this? The first phase? The first
phase, I think.
Yeah, so the first phase of retribution is create a 4/4 Angel Warrior, white Angel Warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. The second phase or stage is until end of turn. Angels you control can gain tap. Destroy target creature with power less than this creature's power. And the third phase or stage is angels you control gain double strike until the end of turn. So the main reason why Drinks and I chose this particular saga to talk about is because themed Kaalia decks are extremely popular. So not only is Kaalia one of and still persists to be like one of the most popular commanders out there, people like to do things like Kaalia's demons or Kaalia's dragons or Kaalia's angels, just focus on one of the tribes. And we thought that this would be an interesting addition to like an angel tribe themed Kaalia. So what you got, buddy?
Yeah. So the card itself, you're going to pay 4 mana for a Sarah Angel up front. And that's so already you've got a 1 mana discount. Going to come in, give you a body in case you're a little bit behind on the board. That's great. Second ability turns that body into removal. And then the third is going to turn that body into, I want to say win con, but if you only have one, a single 4/4 double strike probably isn't a win con.
Mm-hmm.
So with this particular saga, I actually prefer like some kind of blink mechanism, so I can go and keep getting more 4/4s, keep resetting it with like the aforementioned Hex Parasite, or my personal favorite, Gen Arcanum Weaver, because I have the sweet etched foil version, which basically gives me a Goblin Welder effect, but for enchantments. So I sack my saga, bring something back, and then bring this back, and oh look, there's another 4/4. As far as like in the context of
Yeah,
Kaalia, though,
because you almost want, like in that aspect, like 3 turns is not enough.
it really isn't. Uh, in the context of Kaalia, no, I feel like it wants to be good, but you're trying to hit that third mark. That I mean, clearly people, it's telegraphed, because they see it coming right
Mhm.
there on the card. So you want to hit that third when you have the critical mass on board, to where that's going to be effectively your Beastmaster Ascension for the one shot. Uh, but like, I have a hard time really slotting that into the deck unless I'm doing the theme, because at least then the whole like deck is going to work around it. So it's an easier justification at that point.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I think for the mid power folks who are just kind of like jamming and doing their thing, like I think maybe like a turn 7, turn 8, turn 10, where they're just kind of flopping this down, adding another creature by the time they're hitting that like later mid to like later game portion of the game. That's when this is becoming relevant. Like it's not a turn 4 like jam it out and like try to get some value off of that. It's more of a slower, later game kind of thing. And I think that's for the mid game or for the mid power people, they're looking for something like that. Once you start getting into higher power and like you think considering like stacks and like combos and that kind of stuff, you know yeah, this is not going to fit the bill. But by that point, you're not playing solely angels anyway.
yeah, and like I mean, my lower power Kaalia decks, I still have a white border Kaalia,
Mm.
and one of my favorite cards in the deck is my revised Sarah Angel. No, I mean it's not even a dollar card, but you know that me growing up like back in middle school, you know Sarah Angel was the iconic ruler of the battlefield.
Hmm.
It was Sarah Angel, Siobhan Dragon, and you respected the power and you cowered in awe as it clocked you and prevented you from clocking back.
Mm.
Uh,
Vigilance.
like, yeah, Sarah Angel came down. If you didn't find your Siobhan, you know, that's it. Lights out. It's 11:30 for that ass. You know.
The street lights are on. Time to get home. Right
Yep.
on. So yeah, so there's like I said, like we said earlier, there's a number of sagas out there. All do like there's an equipment one. There's one that does treasures. I'm not trying to crush somebody's groove, right? If they want to do some mid power shenanigans and run Kaalia sagas on top of like their Kaalia like Angel Tribal saga thing, like we're gonna support that ass because we like people
Mhm.
playing the queen. Just know that there's going to be a time and a place, and as you try to escalate in power level, maybe the sagas won't cut it, which is kind of why we're doing an abbreviated version of them here.
It,
So,
when I built Kaalia around enchantments or enchantment singular, I went a different direction and I went around Liliana's contract. And I went all in with demons, because there's the interesting deck building restriction there. Because you're like, man, demons are great. They're low cost, but they have so many wild drawbacks to them.
mm,
And yeah, that's true. But your win con gives you a tidings on ETB. If it dies or you blink it and then you bring it back, it's going to give you another 4 cards. And all you have to do is just Liliana's contract, cast Final Fortune, or Warrior's Oath, or Last Chance, insert effect here,
mm-hmm.
and start your turn. Oh, look, I win. And by the way, respect if you pull that off with Warrior's Oath, because that is the most badass reminder text in the game. You don't lose if you've already won. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Uh, and then, of course, like if you wanted to build it like all like dragons. I mean, there's a certain sorcery that's all about the dragons that you may or may not have heard of by this.
Yeah. So I'm taking a look through and just a cursory look over the most popular enchantments in the last year. So the 60 most popular enchantments in the last year. And I see some ones that talk about investigate. So our card quality, like our card advantage quality is so good these days. Like we shouldn't be investigating, right? Like we should just be drawing cards, right? We're not going to pay 2 mana to sacrifice a clue. So things like, I'll throw this up on the screen in post, but like search the premises where you're getting an attack, or whenever a creature attacks you, you're going to investigate, or thorough investigation, which says whenever you attack, investigate. Like, unless you're doing some weird like artifact-based Kaalia deck where you're just gathering up clues like treasures and you're doing something like that, I can't see like us wanting to investigate. So
The only investigate that I really care about in Kaalia is what is my most likely new favorite spot removal spell, and that's oh my god. Wow, I had it in my head and I totally just blanked. It was
happens to the best of us.
Fateful Absence.
There you go.
2 mana instant, 1 and a white. Destroy a target creature or planeswalker. So it's unconditional. And then its controller investigates. So you're going to unconditionally remove a key creature or planeswalker. And then you're going to take tempo from them by making them slow down to crack their clue.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they don't give up the tempo, you just unconditionally took out a key card with no drawback. Like it's win-win. You can't lose. You can't lose with that card. You might as well cast Warrior's Oath because you can't lose because you already won.
Okay, so sagas check. We're gonna move on to the next category, which is classes. So the one that I have up on deck now on the screen is Paladin Class, and the reason why Drinks and I chose this one. So if we're reading this one correctly, right, and I can do a little, let me look through the rulings here. Okay, so additional cost from class cards are cumulative. So if you control, okay, each class starts with the first 3 abilities. As the first level ability resolves, the class becomes level 2 and gains the second class ability. As the second level ability resolves, the class becomes level 3 and gains the third class. So gaining a level won't remove abilities that a class had at a previous level. So you're going to get all of these as you level up, which is a lot better than I thought that it was going to be. So you can tell that I haven't really played with the class cards. So,
but notably, when it comes to Paladin Class, you're only playing this for level 1. Like, I mean, if you're taking that up to level 2 or Bolas Forbid level 3, like you must be in a really bad situation that you're that desperate for mana economy.
Well, yeah, level 2 gives you a way to close. So for 4 total mana, you make it to where people are taxed during your turn, which is a Grand Abolisher type of effect. It's not as effective as Grand Abolisher, but a taxing thing, and then a way to close out at the end. It's obviously better at lower power. But like specifically that, like there's no other 1 mana taxing effect, like perpetual taxing effect, available to us. That isn't like, Silence is a 1 mana, but that's an instant speed thing and only lasts for your turn. So granted, this one doesn't give you protection on opponents' turns and stuff, but let's face it, you're just basically trying to protect or disincentivize somebody interacting with you on your turn. So,
Nope. I actually wanted to touch on that, and I'm glad that it only really works on your turn because there's a similar, much older card that I've got this love-hate relationship with that I used to play because it does protect on your turn, and that's Defense Grid. It's 2 mana, and it makes spells cast by a player other than the active player's turn cost an additional 3. And I love it, but I hate it because it prevents me from meaningfully interacting. So in other words,
doesn't it say as long as it's untapped as well?
No.
No?
Defense Grid doesn't have that clause because it was after they rotated that stuff out.
Am I thinking of Trinisphere?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Trinisphere has that clause. Defense Grid doesn't. But what gets me with Defense Grid is that it's more of a combo card because it's going to protect the combo player more than stopping a removal spell on Kaalia. That's why I would prefer Paladin Class. I would prefer oh my god, what's that card? Archangel of
Oh yeah. The one that Jesus.
It gives you a free mana tithe if it's in your opening hand, and then once it's on the board, it counters spells that opponents cast unless they pay an extra 1.
Yes.
I
can't remember.
Oh my god.
I'll throw it up on the screen right now in post-production, and then we'll be like, yeah, that's the card.
Man, I totally know what that card is.
Is it Archangel of Tithes?
No. Archangel of Tithes is the one from Massacre.
You're talking about the one that was from like the original like Phyrexian block that
Phyrexia, yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. Well, the folks on the screen are listening to us bumble about where they're actually looking at the card because I'm going to put it up there. But yeah. I see. Because that's a good card.
It's a very good card.
That card right there is so awesome.
I see what you're doing there.
Righteous. Okay, so that pretty much covers the classes. Like, there's one that fetches equipment, which is not really. I mean, back in the day, like Kaalia was interested in like potentially doing like some sword dragon thing, but I think we've gotten past that. I mean, some people might want to do the nostalgic. You know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so the only time I ever played a sword was the Sword of Light and Shadow interaction with Yosai the Morningstar that we talked about on the last episode. In this era, I would not play swords because the goal of a Kaalia deck is to set up a board state where you can attack safely and repeatedly.
Right.
Swords don't actually help that. They only enhance the combat. So if you can already attack, and whether the sword was there or not, then doesn't that make the sword win more? It's not like it's doing anything. It's not like playing sword X suddenly lets you attack. Because if it's for the protection, we already have Earnest Fellowship in the first place, and that's going to give Kaalia protection 60% of the color pie.
Okay. That's classes.
Yep.
Ta-da. Okay, so the next 2 cards, I will admit, do not have a place in Kaalia, but, to preface that, but they are so damned popular that we would be remiss if we didn't talk about them, because they are in color, and they were huge hype machines at the time of their release. So I don't know if that hype has since died down or, people just forgot about it in this endless stream of new cards and stuff that we've got. But the first one, and Drinks will remember as soon as I say it, is Monologue Tax.
That card. So that card is not hype. That card is not good. That card is like, it wishes it was Smothering Tithe.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a good card. Like, no.
Well, everybody. Now, granted, this was probably more in the the CDH realm, but everybody was like, oh my God, it's Smothering Tithe 2.0 and it only costs 3, blah, blah, blah. Because there's God forgive me, I can't, there's a partner, Crom. So Crom has the second spell clause where you draw a card instead of do a creature token. So everybody's basing, and at the time, Crom, not that Crom is bad now, but at the time, Crom was like really prominent in CDH. So everybody was like, oh my God, second spell each turn. We get so much value off of Crom. We're going to get so much value off of this. Maybe not, you're creating a treasure token is a really powerful thing, but it's nowhere near as powerful as drawing a card. So
monologue tax is a meme. Monologue tax is, Mom, can I have Smothering Tithe? Your mom replies, we have Smothering Tithe at home. Monologue tax is the Smothering Tithe at home.
So in a nutshell, it was overhyped. It's not very good. In fact, it gets worse. If it's okay at CDH tables, it gets worse as you scale down in power, because opponents aren't going to be casting, like, they'll have the occasional second spell each turn, but by and large, they're curving out and they're casting, one thing a turn, doing their deal, interacting on other people's turns, so you're just not going to get the same value. So save your $5 and don't buy this product. Yeah.
Wait, holy crap! That card's $5?
The extended art is the regular version is $362 at the time of recording. So, yeah.
Who's paying $3.50 for this? And there's some ugly art. Oh my God! Why? Just, I mean, for $3.50, what you do instead of buy monologue tax, you save $3.50. You go find another $1 off the ground, put that together. Now you can go to Little Caesars and get you a hot and ready pizza.
Right.
It will instantly serve you better than this piece of shit, garbage wannabe Smothering Tithe crap.
Okay. Second card that's popular that's not a good fit for Kaalia, because there's better options. There's infinitely better options. Yeah. Okay. So that card is the Meat Hook Massacre. So what was interesting about this card is the fact that it's a removal spell that's a legendary enchantment. Go ahead.
I'm gonna pull that up myself because I haven't actually bought one of these yet, because every copy is like $40 to $50.
Right.
Black. So each creature gets -6/-6. When a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. When a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain 1 life. So I mean,
so it has
a good card.
It has static effects that persist beyond the initial ETB. But what I'm getting at is those static effects aren't necessarily something that you're going to play in a Kaalia deck. The thing that you're going to play in a Kaalia deck is Toxic Deluge, which does that first part better.
Yeah, this card here is what you'd play in an Aristocrat style deck, and it'd be really good there. But Kaalia is not Aristocrat. Even in the other Kaalia, I mean, I sacrificed some, but I'm certainly not in the Aristocrats deck. Yeah, like this. I mean, this is a fine card. It's, you can sleeve this up, put this in your deck, and it's going to do good things. But I mean,
it's not going to perform.
Wouldn't pay $40 or $50 just to put it in your Kaalia deck.
Yeah, it's not going to perform the way that you want it to perform.
That said, the double feature version of it looks super beautiful. The Innistrad double feature promo
with the purple, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's super pretty, but yeah.
Give everybody, might as well click on it since I'm hovering over it.
There you go.
Okay. Well, hell, that was Enchantments. That was pretty quick, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna.
That's because even all these years later, the only enchantment that really matters for Kaalia is still Earnest Fellowship. Like, I mean, think about it. That's the only one. I mean, like, yeah, you can.
Lantex
You can
would
make.
like to have a word with you.
Yeah. I mean, you can say but Lantex, but Necropotence, but Phyrexian Arena. I mean, these aren't really limited to Kali. These are more general purpose good enchantments.
That's
it's
fair.
like saying that Animate Zed's good, but I mean, Animate Zed is just good anywhere.
Okay.
Like, do you play creatures? Do you like to bring those creatures back? Then play Animate Zed.
Okay, so I'm looking through the list of the top 60 in color artifacts. Now, we've already touched base, and I'll go ahead and bring this up. So the first one is Sword of Hearth and Home. We had a series of new swords that had come out in the last little bit. Hearth and Home is the classic sword framing, +2/+2, protection from sets of two colors, in this instance, green and white.
Yep.
And its ability is directly related to its color pie, which is
Link and Rampant Growth.
Correct. Yeah. So I forget what's the other. There's one more sword that came out. I can't remember.
Sword of Sinew and Steel and Sword of Truth and Justice.
Okay. So yeah, as we said earlier, so swords have their place. They're very powerful things, and as Three Drinks said earlier, they make combat for a very specific creature a very interesting proposition, right? Like you can sculpt your deck around that act. Kaalia doesn't care about that. Kaalia cares about the peripheral effects of combat and dropping creatures in through that sneak attack ability. So we're more worried about directing the attention outwards versus suiting it up. Like probably, I'll go ahead and say it, the number one equipment you're going to be playing in Kaalia is Lightning Greaves.
Yep.
And that's probably it. I don't think anybody's on both Greaves and Swiftfoot boots anymore because the tutors are too good.
Well, I've done it. I mean, sometimes. Oh no, because
in the beginning we did in
the context of Kaalia, Hexproof and Shroud is redundant. They're identical.
You're right.
Because you don't care about targeting your stuff anyway. Like, I mean, you might do Swiftfoot boots instead if you're on a version of Kaalia that used like Feather the Redeemed, and in such an instance, you'd be using like protective spells to save your guys, and then Feather would bring those spells back to your hand. That's the only time I could see that it's worth having to pay the extra 1 to equip.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's swords. That was easy.
Super easy.
Okay, so the last one now, like just like enchantments, there are 1,000,001. Like the reverse side of Tegrid is an artifact. Yeah, so there's like other things that are in color, like the opposite side of Bergie is a like artifact. I don't think there's a Kaalia Storm build. I don't think there's a so Bergie's out of the question. I don't think so. Tegrid would be an interesting inclusion, because you're already taking an asshole deck and turning it into more of an asshole. But like I think Tegrid builds are better suited as Tegrid commander builds versus Kaalia Tegrid builds. So like there's other like air quotes good cards that are like released and artifacts and that kind of stuff. Like, but really like between the swords and this next one, they're the only ones really worth mentioning. So this next card is Esper Sentinel.
Yes. So Esper Sentinel is like, we finally got our own Rhystic study, except it doesn't trigger when they cast creatures, and it only triggers once a turn.
So it is. So I want to draw a direct line to what we said earlier. What was that? 3-mana enchantment that we compared to Smothering Tide. See, it was so bad I can't even
Monologue
remember.
tax.
Yeah. So monologue tax. And I said it specifically there that getting a treasure and drawing a card are not the same things. So this is restrictive in a similar way as monologue tax, where it only triggers at a specific time and only that one time and what have you. But for 1 mana, you put a roadblock in front of somebody that says, okay, I'm going to either rob you of a mana to do on your turn, or in the event that I don't rob you of that, tax you that mana, you're going to let me draw a card. And this card scales like the other card as it monologue tax scaled worse as you went from higher power to lower power. This one scales from lower power to higher power, like gets better and better and better and better and better the higher in power you go. Because that one card you're drawing could be an ad nause.
And not just that, but the Esper Sentinel, like, as opposed to the monologue tax that doesn't do anything if they just cast one spell, Esper Sentinel gives you something when they cast one spell,
Which they're going to.
Exactly. So, and you can draw 3 cards per turn cycle.
Yeah. 3 opponents,
well,
three cards.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Because you play it, and then in theory, you could draw 12 cards per turn cycle.
There you go.
Because you could draw 3 on your turn, on the next guy's turn, next guy's turn, next guy. Now, I don't imagine you're going to draw 12 cards in a turn cycle, but having that as the ceiling is really good, especially when its floor is typically going to be drawing 3 cards. Unless you just play this and then everyone else at the table just goes land go, land go, land go. Which I'm pretty okay with that too, because that means either A, you don't have anything, or B, you're trying to draw go me when I already have a threat on the board that I can start getting in with.
So, So needless to say, I think the verdict is in. In the last, since January 1st of 2021 to present day, which is now March of 2022, the only artifact that is playable in Kaalia, or should be played in Kaalia, is an Esper Sentinel. That's a pretty amazing thing to synthesize down. Now, like we had a couple of interesting options for creatures. We had now for the middle power stuff, we had some interesting effects in sagas and in classes, but like really there was nothing that was predicted to be or should be ubiquitous between all of them. And I think Esper Sentinel fits that bill.
In that era, when did Arcane Signet come out?
Oh.
Because if that was within that era, that's totally one.
No, it's like Arcane Signet's like 2 years prior to that, because it.
That's what I thought, because it came out in Eldring, I think, and it was a big deal.
The Brawl, because they were selling them straight in those Brawl decks, those bastards.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was easy. That was enchantments and artifacts all in one go. Now, of course, if we're honest, Drinks and I didn't really expect there to be too much. Granted, there's a lot of cards in color, like Bergi is a house in the right build. Kaalia is just not that build. Tegrid, as you know, is, and at March of 2022, is the bane of many casual players, because they're just doing a thing that they don't like to do. So, like, there are good cards in color. They're just not Kaalia cards.
You can't see, but I'm nodding my head as you say that.
No doubt. So keep that in mind, like, reflecting back, like, to earlier in this episode where we were talking about enchantments, or the previous episode to this where we were talking about creatures, or the first episode where we were talking about lands. Like, there are some interesting choices that are just probably better suited for other commanders. You know, right now we're focused on the queen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, that'll be this episode, I think. We'll any passing or final thoughts on artifacts or enchantments? It's pretty clean. You know, we're in, we're out.
Yeah, it's pretty clean. I mean, like the artifacts we're gonna play, I mean, it's not gonna be the new ones, that's for sure. No, we're still looking at Spear of Resistance, Trinisphere. We're still looking at Mana Web.
Very build around me cards. Be careful. Be careful. You can't just jam in those, and you have to build around them.
Yeah, you definitely like Sphere of Resistance is a fantastic card. I love it. But yeah, you definitely can't just, oh, I have a Sphere of Resistance. No, you need to have a justification for it. Like typically, like that justification doesn't need to be strong. I mean, I'll justify saying, well, I'm playing Mishra's Workshop, so I'll play Sphere of Resistance too. But that's because I'm playing a land that's a reusable Lotus. Go figure.
Mm.
I'm not sure how relevant that is to people because most people don't have a $2,000 land lying around. So,
proxy.
Maybe that was just an excuse for me to get Clay to put Mishra's Workshop on the screen.
There it is. Okay, folks, that wraps up the very next and last episode in this season 2 of Kaalia Deep Discussions, Kaalia the Vast, is actually not going to be about Kaalia the Vast. It's going to be centered and focused on Three Drinks' current build of Kaalia Zenith Seeker, the underloved and underappreciated other Kaalia. So we're going to focus an entire episode on that commander, what she has to offer, and I think you're going to be surprised. I'm going to make a prediction because I already know, and it's a safe 5 imaginary dollars that I'm betting, that you're going to enjoy this, especially if you like a more serious take on your experimental, like, I don't want to say jank because it's purposeful, but if you have a serious take on experimental builds, like, this is going to be the thing for you, right?
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this deck because in the Kaalia server I've had more than a couple of people that keep asking me, when am I going to unveil the list? When am I going to show people what I'm doing?
Mm.
So that tells me that there is clear interest, but people are confused to how the deck goes.
Yep.
Because you can't, like, we love Kaalia, but you can't build this like Kaalia because of its own hoops that you have to jump through, and not everyone is like me and likes doing the math. So, in fact, very few people are like me and like doing the math.
So, spoiler alert, there is math incoming. So, join us in 3 weeks for the next episode. Deep Discussions Kaalia Zenith Seeker. Last episode of Season 2 of Deep Discussions Kaalia the Vast. I hope to see you here. Three Drinks hopes to see you here. We love and appreciate you. If you have any questions, ping us in the Kaalia Discord. We'll talk to you next time.